Hello, all. Welcome back to New Chapters. My name is Sarah, and if this is your first time joining me, I just want to say thank you for stopping by for this chapter of my life. I'm a hobby hopper, so if this isn't the content you usually watch me for, I hope you enjoy this hobby as well and will stick around for today's video. Today, we're going to be doing another WIP and Chat. WIP, WIP, just stands for Work in Progress. Feel free to work on your projects alongside me, or you can treat this like a podcast and just listen while I chat. Today I'm going to be continuing to work on my Enablers Outpost kit. This is called Winter Girl. It is a image from Shutterstock. It is no longer available, but I will link to the Enablers Outpost website down below and you can see what they currently do have on their website. Today, in terms of tools, I am going to again be using my Diamond Art Club diamond painting pen. This side is just the standard brass tip, and on this side, I have the steel single placer tip. I have micro glue dots in the tip, and then I have a clear hair tie that hopefully you can see there that's securing it in place. I also have my Dreamer Design tweezers that are just the standard tweezers from their kit off to the side in case I need them. And then I have my Firefly Diamond Art. See if I can get this to actually focus on it today. I have my Firefly Diamond Art tray. This is their Element tray, which you can see here on the back. Um, so this has a little trash compartment, it has a lid, and then it has three different bases. There is a single placing grid, a multi-placing grid, and then just the standard grid, which is what I have today and that I will be using. I believe that is it in terms of tools. Oh, and then I have my Elizabeth Ward tray kitted up over on the side that just has all of my diamonds kitted up. But yeah, I have a little bit of a section already started here, so I won't be setting up a new section, but I'll go ahead and ask you guys how you guys have been. What's been going on in your life, in your world? Anything fun or exciting or interesting? Anything maybe not so great going on? If there's anything that you're willing to share about down in the comments below, I'd love to try to offer support for the good or for the bad in any way that I can. As I said before, you guys definitely offer me some sort of support um, when I'm going through some good things and some bad things. I've had people cheering me on already, or there to say that they understand what I'm going through when I'm like, I feel a little crazy about this. So I appreciate your guys' support, and I'd like to offer what I can back to you as well if you're willing to share. I know it's a public forum, so sometimes that can make it a little more difficult to share things, and I totally can understand that and don't want you to share if you're not comfortable with it. This week has been not nearly as eventful and productive as I hoped it would be. I had told you guys that my partner was out of town for the week for a work training. So I had, our apartment. I keep calling it our apartment. Man, I was at our house all by myself, and ooh, whoops, lost a drill. But I had the place to myself and I had intended to be very productive. But as you guys know, if you watched my last whip and chat, I ended up hearing back from my former employer and they told me that they were going in a different direction and that I was no longer seemingly a good fit for their agency, though I still say if the reason they, turned me down is the reason that I think it was, I was never a good fit to begin with. I just don't think they knew that at the time. Um, but anyhow, I heard back from them, did not get that position, did not move forward with it. And so it kind of put me a little bit down last week, and I was not feeling super inspired anymore by anything, and was also a little concerned because, I have a couple of other job things pending in the ether, but like I was really kind of banking on being able to get that job and have income again on a regular basis. So I'm kind of back to square one of job hunting again, applying to more things, still trying to find jobs. But I mean, the longer that I've been looking for jobs, the more I'm like, I don't even know what to apply for anymore. Like, I don't even know what I want to do at this point because everything I want to do turns me down. and everything else I'm finding is not something I'm really interested in. And I don't really want to take a job just because I need a job, but we're kind of at that stage. So I'm hoping that some of the things that I have applications in for continue to go in positive directions. Um, but I'm also trying not to get my hopes up again, because when I've been doing that, that's when things are not falling into place for me and I end up not getting a job that I think I'm getting. So it was definitely not great last week. Not doing super hot with it this week, but I'm better than last week. But that ended up meaning that I mean, all of my energy and stuff to be motivated and be productive and like catch up on cleaning and like, I don't know, make things look good and get my physical space in order. I kind of just ignored everything and hung out in my bed for like 2 days. And I ended up like binge watching movies for 2 days, and it was great. I needed it. It was fabulous, but certainly did not get nearly as much done as I had hoped to in my time of, being alone and not feeling like I needed to be concerned about what my partner was up to and what he wanted to do or needed to do. Um, and feeling like that was keeping me from, doing what I wanted or needed to do. So yeah, it was not as productive as I had hoped to be. But again, I mean, I was productive in other ways, right? I mean, taking the time to just veg out for a couple of days can be just as helpful from like a mental health perspective as getting everything tidied and organized and whatever. So I was really productive like Sunday after I dropped him off from the airport, and then Monday before I found out that I didn't get the job. But then the rest of the week was kind of downhill. I mean, I did go to a job interview and stuff like that, but I just, in terms of around my house, it was not the most eventful week. So, not too much going on for me this week, really. Like I said, watched a lot of movies, watched a lot of rom coms. It was really nice. I enjoyed getting to laugh for a couple hours straight for the different movies I was watching. Um, but even though there were definitely some negatives, there were also a couple of positives. I heard back from the library that I had applied to that I told you guys about in my last Whip and Chat, and they scheduled me for a phone interview that week, that same week that they called, so this past week, and I got scheduled a phone interview, had my phone interview. It went really well. Um, Everything I was saying, like the supervisor who was doing the phone interview was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel the exact same way about all of those things." And I was like, "That seems like positive stuff for me. Hopefully, then, like, hopefully you agree with me." As I said, the job requirements were much more vague than most library positions that I have um, applied to previously in the last couple of months. So I was hopeful that I would be able to, convey that I have the ability to hold this role, even though I don't necessarily have traditional like library experience. Um, Granted, I don't think I mentioned this last time, but I have volunteered at libraries off and on since college. So, I mean, I do have some library experience, sort of, just in a volunteer capacity versus in like an employment capacity, which is different, and they don't consider that to be the same thing in most places, but does give me a tiny bit of an advantage over somebody who isn't in the library sciences field and hasn't ever volunteered there before. So hopefully that continues to give me a little bit of an upper hand. But I think the interview or the phone interview went really well. And then I just today got an email about scheduling a panel interview. So I did well enough that I'm moving forward to the next step. Hopefully that goes well too. I'm really hopeful about this. Like, I think it would be something I'd be really good at. I think it would be something that would help me feel like I can make a difference in people's lives, connecting people to resources, being knowledgeable about the community, like all those same sorts of things that, I mean, are part of what I enjoyed so much about like being able to help people in a probation capacity, just from a different environment and from an environment that is willing to, treat people like people. um, and not be looking to punish people for their actions, but kind of take people where they're at and work with them and help them be better versions of themselves for the way that the person wants to be a better version of themselves, you know? So we'll see how that all ends up panning out. I'll keep you guys updated for sure after my panel interview, see how that goes. I believe that's the last step of their interview process, is the panel interview. So I should know, um, presumably within the next week or two, whether or not they're going to choose me for that position, hopefully. But don't really have too much else out there right now that has been undealt with in terms of employment and applications. I haven't heard back from the other, not my old probation job, but the other agency I applied to. I haven't heard back from them, but they were kind of a little unclear about whether they would contact people if they're not moving forward or if they would just be contacting the people who moved forward on their interview process. So I'm thinking at this point that perhaps I did not move forward and they did not contact me to tell me I didn't move forward. So I'm not holding my breath too much on that one, but I guess we'll have to just wait and see if I hear from them after all. Um, I know they were doing at least a week or two worth of interviews, so perhaps they haven't made final decisions yet. But I'm not holding my breath on that job, especially because I gave the same spiel I gave to my old employer, and my old employer didn't want me for those reasons, and I can imagine that maybe the other probation office feels similarly. So, unfortunately, I'm not sure that that is going to be a viable option at this point. We'll just wait and see. But, oh, there is another job, though, that is not at all a job that I'm super interested in having, but perhaps an agency that would be worth looking into. Man, I keep shoving the diamond painting. Sorry, guys. Um, I was talking to my friend that I used to work with at the jail, and she had told me that a different county agency had recently come and toured like the program I used to work for, basically. Um, from so it's a different county's probation office came to tour the program I used to work at with her, and they came to tour it because they feel like they don't want to just give people tasks that they have to complete on probation and then no support to actually help people reach those tasks. So they're wanting to help get people, transportation and get them education and help. I think she said that they use the phrase like they wanted to be coaches and not referees. Um, and that's like exactly the sort of thing that I've been trying to find at the other places that I've been applying to. And I mean, that's kind of the spiel I've been giving in fewer words. Um, so they have a position open right now that is absolutely not a probation officer position, um, but it is like an intake position for that agency, and it's something that I really am not interested in the position that's available. But on the flip side, if the person who's heading up this agency really truly feels the way that my friend was describing about probation and where they're wanting to take things long term, I think it's worth applying to that position and accepting that position if it would be offered to me, just so I could get my foot in the door at the agency and then could move around within the agency, as things hopefully become available at some point, and kind of move more into the space that I would like to be a part of, long term if I were able to get that job. So haven't applied to that yet. I think the job posting is open until like the beginning of June. So I have a little bit of time still to apply from the time that I'm filming this. I think by the time you guys are watching this, I'll have already made decisions and applied if I decide to. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to go ahead and at least apply and put it out there. I mean, as I said, I'm trying not to put all my eggs in one basket at this point because that's not been going super well for me when I've been trying to do that. So, trying to be realistic, trying to make sure I have applications going in lots of places so I'm not just banking on one particular job or any particular job really, as I am getting closer and closer to my you gotta get a job timeline. and it's like it's not like I don't want a job. I don't want to have to compromise, and maybe that's the problem, right? I'm looking for something that's it's not even like about being my perfect job, but like there's a couple of things that are just kind of uncommon that I would really like that I don't want to have to compromise on if I don't have to, like my schedule and having flexibility and that kind of working the hours in a day that I want is really important to me. But also at the same time, I mean, I'm kind of glad I wasn't chosen for my old position if they really aren't wanting to move forward and be more open minded and more progressive towards criminal justice issues and like on a moral ground, I would not stay there for long if it turned out that I wasn't able to do that once I got my foot in the door. So I don't know. I'm probably out there looking for something that doesn't exist. um, but then again, maybe I've been looking in the wrong field. I mean, that's why I'm hoping this library thing comes through because I think that the perspective I see the world through is much more likely to be shared at this particular library location. And I also think that I can, as I said, provide support and help to people in a way that maybe I never would have really been able to in a probation role. So we'll see. I feel like I sound very sad talking about it, and I feel a little sad talking about it. I just want to be able to help people, and it sucks that other people don't want to help people. That that's not like the main goal of everybody. Um, but we'll see how it all pans out. This weekend, as I said, by the time you guys see this, it'll be a couple weeks later, but this weekend is Memorial Day weekend for the States. And my birthday always falls somewhere around Memorial Day weekend. So when I'm working, it's really nice because I always get a 3 day weekend around my birthday. And often I'll turn that into a 4 day weekend if I can. So it's always nice because I kind of get to take a little break around my birthday. And I don't normally do a lot in terms of celebrating per se, but we're gonna get together with my mom and my stepdad. And I mean, they're more or less doing it for Memorial Day. My stepdad likes to grill out and he likes to have an excuse to grill out. So we're going to be over at their house. And I was giving my mom a hard time because I think they decided that they're going to do like hamburgers and hot dogs. But originally I was told they were going to do like brisket and like ribs and like generic traditional like barbecue food um, was their original intention. And I was giving my mom a hard time because I'm like, man, you guys say that this is not for Memorial Day and it's to actually celebrate my birthday and my stepsister's birthday because we have birthdays that are around the same time. But I'm like, here I have to come to your guys' house to eat food that I don't like because I love the smell of smoked meats, but I do not like brisket and ribs and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm like, here I am coming over to your house to eat food that I don't want for my birthday. Supposedly, because we're supposedly celebrating my birthday, and I'm like, I have to eat food I don't want, and I am a baker, and so I always end up like my stepdad's joke is that if I don't have peanut butter chocolate chip cookies, I'm not allowed to come over to the house, which isn't actually true. I can go over there if I need to or want to without peanut butter chocolate chip cookies, but he, that's his thing. He likes peanut butter chocolate chip cookies, and he always asks me for them every time I see him. That's like one of the first questions he asks is, "Where's his cookies?" Um, so obviously, I'm making peanut butter chocolate chip cookies for my stepdad for my birthday. And I was like, isn't it kind of funny, Mom, that like supposedly this is all for my birthday, but I'm oh gosh, lost my train of thought. Technically, I'm making all the concessions here, and like I'm making food and dessert that I don't necessarily. I mean, I don't mind the cookies, but I'm like that's not what I would choose to make for myself. I'm like, so I'm making what my stepdad wants, and I'm eating the food that my stepdad wants. I'm like, his birthday is not for several more months. I'm like, this is supposed to be about me. Or at least me and my stepsister. Like, if she wanted that stuff, sure, fine, whatever. But I'm like, it's not even about her. It's about my stepdad and what he wants. So we'll go out to their house this weekend and it'll be fine. And I'm glad, I mean, they're doing burgers and hot dogs now, it sounds like. I think my stepdad said, and quote, whatever other roadkill they can scrounge up. I'm like, well, you guys can have your roadkill and I'll eat a burger. But of course, I get made fun of for eating burgers too because I'm the person that likes my burger to be charred. I don't want any pink at all in the inside. If it's a little dry, I would rather take that slathered in some cheese than something that's a little bit bloody. And so I get made fun of for my quote hockey puck that they create for me. But I'm like, I would much rather eat that than any other form of food you're gonna feed me. So but I mean, it's been that way since my mom and stepdad got together. You know, my food preferences, my pickiness gets made fun of. I always give my brother a hard time, and I think it's funny because he's a little picky about what he eats and how he eats it too. But for whatever reason, that's the sticking point that my stepdad has for me. So he makes fun of me for it. And so then when my brother does it, literally sitting right next to me, I'm like, "What about him? He did the exact same thing." And he's like, "Well, that's your brother. It's different." I'm like, "Okay." My brother's like, it's okay. He makes fun of me for other things than he makes fun of you for. He's like, they're just separated in his mind that like Sarah's the picky eater. So I'm like, that's probably true. I'm like, he just has his go-to things to harass us about as any stepdad does. Really, probably as any dad does, but um, so that's my plans for this weekend is to kind of hang out. Got to make cookies, hopefully today or tomorrow, so I can take them with us. And then other than that, really, I think I told you guys last week, I've been reading a lot. That has continued this week. I read a second book. So we talked about the Chain Gang All Stars book last week. But I've read another book since I finished that one, and I'm like over halfway done with a short story collection that I checked out from the library. Um, I haven't really been like a big short story reader before in the past, but I watch a couple like booktubers who were reading some short story collections, and I was like, you know what, I should give it a try, see if I like that, or if like at the time when I checked everything out, I wasn't reading super quickly, so I was like, well, maybe that'll give me something that I can read a little more quickly because they're all just individual stories, like even if there's a decent number of pages. But even then, it's like most short story collections that I've encountered at least are shorter than novel books that I've been interested in recently. So I was like, well, maybe I can at least get through a short story collection or two a little bit faster. So I'm reading a short story collection right now, and it's like from the body horror genre. Body horror. Oh my gosh, I can't say that word. Sorry, guys. It'll be in the captions if you're trying to figure out what I'm saying. Um, from the body horror genre, and so it's kind of weird because I mean that's not really a genre that I've read a lot from before, but it's kind of the idea of like Medusa, or like Frankenstein or something like that, where like the body has been deformed or manipulated or something like that, in some way that's like in our minds not quote unquote human or humanesque or humanoid or whatever. Um, so it's been interesting. I just read a short story today that like I was like, this is probably the best one. I was like, it made me wildly uncomfortable, but like I think that's a good indication that it did what it was trying to do. um, but yeah, so I've been reading short stories and another novel. Really been into reading recently. That's been kind of my go-to hobby. It's been easy for me to kind of tune out. I also previously I've tried like kind of pacing or walking around or whatever while I read. And I think I used to get motion sick really bad pretty often. And some of it's because I was always dehydrated and had a lack of food. So now that I'm a little more hydrated on a regular basis and I'm eating more food more often, like I should be, in a healthier manner, I found I can pace and read at the same time again. Um, so I've been kind of like, I'll read for an hour while I'm pacing around in my living room. So I'm sure it would look a little funny if other people saw me doing it, but I'm like, well, I'm getting a little bit of exercise at least. I'm not just sitting motionless, not doing anything, or like, last week laying in bed for like 2 days, I hurt my neck again because I was in bed for too long. And so I'm like, I need to get up and be active and move my body around. So it's been nice that I can read and walk, and then I don't even notice that I'm like exercising and walking around necessarily. Like that isn't something that I'm like registering. So it has been pretty nice because I can walk for an hour and I don't even realize that I'm like feeling any sort of way because my brain is so distracted by the pages that I don't realize that like my legs are like jello until I sit down and I'm like, oh, yep, I'm like, I've been walking in the exact same kind of motion and pattern, and my body is like, that was too much. We've had enough. But that's okay. Again, I think it's better for me to be doing that than not. But that has been something that I've been doing this week. Um, you'll have to let me know down below what books have you guys been reading recently if you read um, on a regular basis, or if you like to read, what have you been reading recently, or even tell me what your favorite book is. I'd love to know what yours are down below. um, my favorite book, my partner and I were actually talking about this last week. My favorite book is probably a book by Lisa Gardner. It's called Find Her. It's like a thriller, psychological thriller book, I believe is probably how it would be best categorized. Definitely adult, definitely a little messed up. But clearly, as someone who works in the criminal justice field, like my mind is not always in the most like sane of places. So I really enjoy some pretty dark things um in terms of like reading and learning about and stuff. But I told him really I don't even know that it's like the best. Oops, sorry, hit the camera. I don't know that it's even the best like written book necessarily, but really the reason it's my favorite is because it was the first book I read like for fun as an adult. Like I used to love reading as a kid, but granted, I think some of that's because I could do my online reading tests or whatever and earn rewards and points. So like I was motivated for I enjoyed reading, but I was motivated by a lot of external things at the time as like an elementary school kid. But then in middle school and high school, you have to read so much, or at least you're assigned to read so much that like I was reading all the time for school, but like I wasn't really reading for fun. Um, and then in college, I probably didn't read hardly anything my first semester of college, but my second semester of college, I found this book called Find Her, and I was intrigued by it, and I read it, and I devoured it in like a day or two, and I was like, ever since then, I've been reading. So I've gone through like spurts and stuff of like how much I'm reading and whatnot, and like how often, but I pretty consistently read um, since like my freshman year of college. So, well, and I take that back. It wasn't even my freshman year. So I must not have read like anything my freshman year. It was my sophomore year of college, my first semester, I think. So yeah, I like spent a whole year not reading, which seems crazy to me now because I really do love books. But anyway, been reading more than normal. I think reading more than consuming more in totality has also helped me learn to read a little bit faster and be able to comprehend a little bit easier. I think, it's kind of one of those things that's kind of like a muscle. The more you're using it, the easier it is. So maybe I'll continue to get a little bit faster with reading, but I don't necessarily want speed to be the deciding factor about reading and if it's enjoyable or whatever, but I do want to be able to get through as many books as I can. Um, not even because of like I want to be able to be like, oh, I read so many books, but like I just want to be able to consume that much content. It's sort of like every other sort of content, right? Nowadays, like I have a never-ending list of, movies I want to watch on Netflix and things I want to watch on YouTube and podcasts I want to listen to, and it's never ending, but the same is true for books, right? Like it's certainly a different kind of media consumption, but it's still just consuming content that just is never ending. So if I can get through as many as I possibly can, I would enjoy that. That's the ultimate goal, just to be able to read as much as I possibly can manage to get through. So if I can read a tiny bit faster, that just means I can get through a couple more books in my life. Um, but yeah, that's been really the biggest thing, taking up time again this week. And then this is kind of a random off the wall thought, but I wanted to throw it out there into the world because I'm curious. And I don't know that you all would necessarily be able to answer this question, but maybe you know somebody in your life, if you're not of the elderly population, maybe you know somebody in your life who's retired who you can use as an example for this, but I was talking about with like my birthday and stuff coming up. I was having a conversation with my partner the other day about how, you know, now that I'm not working and I'm working, not working, wow. Now that I'm not working, I'm operating on like this, I mean, most days at this point, it's probably like a 2 or 3 a.m. to like 10 to 11 a.m. kind of sleep cycle. Like, that's when I'm sleeping most days. And so I said it was funny to me because I don't know, I guess, and maybe this is a US cultural thing too, but like in cultural conversations, there's always those jokes about how the older you get, the like earlier you go to sleep, right? Like it's like, oh, it's not even like dinner time's at like 4 now. If you're getting up there in age, you're in your 70s. It's like, you got dinner at 4 and you're in bed by like 6. And like that's kind of like the running joke. And it just made me wonder, like, I don't imagine that at any point in my future my sleep cycle is going to change. Um, in terms of what my body prefers. Like, I think I will always be a night owl. I think I will always stay up if I don't have other obligations until 2 a.m. and sleep until 10 a.m. But it just made me wonder if that means that, like, someday, if I ever get a job again and can retire in the future, that, like, if I'm going to be that old lady when I'm retired that's like awake until 3 o'clock in the morning every single day and operating on some very strange schedule compared to most other people in the world. And it just made me wonder if other people can confirm for me, like, again, are you retired or older or have a family member or somebody in your life that's like retired and older? And like, do they fall into that stereotype of being an early riser and they're asleep super early in the evening? Or do you know some people out there who are awake past midnight now that they don't have obligations and they don't have to be awake? So they just, their body naturally keeps them up later. I'm just curious because I wonder if I'll again be like the one person out there in the world who is actually still a night out when I'm 80 and, am oddly awake at 3 a.m. And I'm sure that will creep people out. If they're like, oh, Sarah, the old lady down the street, she's just up all night. And like, I'm sure that's how, witch stories, things, haunted house stories, all of those sorts of, you know, not real but neighborhood stories start to come about is why are you awake in the middle of the night? It's the witching hour and all that kind of stuff. Um, so I'm just curious if you guys can confirm for me whether that's actually true or if like even the night owls eventually, after 40 years of having to get up early, conform to a retirement life that really is everybody's up at like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock if you're lucky, but never, late after or late morning, early afternoon sort of wake time. But again, very random thought. I was just curious if you guys could add any input for me on that one. Um, and then I think that's really it for today. I don't have much else, if anything, I think on my list over here. Yep, that seems like it is everything. So I guess we will go ahead and wrap it up for today. If you've made it to the end of this video, if you guys will leave an emoji in the comments that's related to celebrating, whatever that means for you, or whatever that looks like for you, if there's some food or drink down there or some, emoji head or whatever, leave me some sort of emoji that is based on celebrations. And again, I mean, that could be things like barbecues and cookouts, or that could be birthdays, whatever. Thank you for watching today's video. If you're looking for more content related to this chapter of my life, please check out my diamond painting playlist. It's going to be linked in the cards, but if it doesn't pop up, you can find it around the description box. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content about this chapter and others. And please leave any comments or questions you have down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.